Welcome to the Money to Meaning podcast, where we explore ways to bridge the gap between money and our heart's desires. I'm your hostess, Amy Adler, and today I have with me Clare Connally, who is a real estate agent in the residential market in Austin, Texas. And I will let Clare tell you more about herself and her background, and we'll intersperse throughout the conversation some of our connection and how we know each other and how we work together. Welcome, Clare.
Hey, thank you, Amy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's really great to have you here. So, we can start off a little bit by telling us a little bit about your work and your approach to your work, and maybe even why you decided to go into real estate.
Yeah, I thought about real estate only after I had started in it. It wasn't something I grew up wanting to do. I actually wanted to be on Broadway. And so this is a little bit of a different path. I started my corporate career with a real estate development company, and they had a culture that really was about the customer. It was very customer centric, and then also creating a good company culture. And so that followed me into this passion of being in real estate sales. So the pivot from corporate world to sales happened after I started to run their actual internal nonprofit, and I started traveling across the world to Rwanda. And I loved
Mm.
it, being able to help others, and really got clear that that's my sole purpose, is to help others. And but I wasn't in houses anymore. So I started to notice I really like being inside houses, seeing how they look and feel, what can be improved, what not can, what, how people can enjoy them. So I started looking into real estate sales and took that path because it's still helping others. So that is my purpose in the work that I do. And I've been doing this part of it for 9 years now.
Wow. Okay. So that's interesting that you felt this pull to real estate, even though you kind of got directed down a different path for a while and really felt that need to go back to the real estate
Mhm.
where you felt really at home, pun intended.
Yeah, I felt at home. And,
Awesome.
yeah, it was something that I saw as continuing to help others. And I could travel to Rwanda on my own time to still visit the people I knew there. So that
That's
helped
really
me to
cool.
really be grounded in staying here in Austin.
Okay. So you've already shared a little bit about what you love about it because it's why you ended up doing it, but maybe share a little bit more detail about what you love about selling real estate.
Yeah, so I work primarily by referral. And so that started out very slow because I didn't have an identity of a realtor in the Austin area. My identity, some people thought I actually lived across the world. So building that for myself took some time. However, once I started to help my friends and family close their houses, they started to write reviews and also talk to their friends and think of me when their friends and family needed to buy and sell real estate. So, what I love about it is getting to know the families, getting to know my clients, and helping them to see where their future could go and educating them along the way. The education piece is also part of what I like to do, aside from being on Broadway. I wanted to be a teacher. So, different, we all have different aspirations as children. And I took the teaching path in terms of real estate. So, being able to help people understand what they're purchasing, what they could look forward to as a home buyer, and then how to sell their house in different markets is definitely a challenge, but it's something that I'm able to help do seamlessly and with the least amount of stress as possible. I tell my clients to give me your stress, let me hold it, and I'll help you along the way. So, what's going to make their house stand out and then on the buying front, how to really narrow down their options so that they know they're getting the best house for the best price in the most efficient way.
That is so valuable. The education, gosh, I can't reiterate enough how important that is for people, especially like in my work with divorcing people. I realized client after client is they're so uneducated and maybe even a little feeling a lot of shame around not knowing much about the finances and in their family, in their situation, and especially when it comes to their house, because it's such a different beast from all of the other types of financial issues that people go through, because a house is a huge asset and investment, but also a really big expense that requires, a lot of money to be put into it to be able to get a lot of money out of it as well. So the fact that you're educating people before they buy their house or before they sell their house is so incredibly important and valuable. I love that you do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you consider yourself to be a business owner? Are you an independent contractor of the firm that you work for? How does it work from a business standpoint?
Yeah, so I do consider myself a business owner because I'm running my own business within as an independent contractor. So while I have the benefits of a corporate company, Compass Real Estate, at my fingertips to share with my clients, the business I'm building is how I take care of my clients. Everyone is different. There's about 17,000 realtors in the Austin area. And it's very clear how many actually do the business in the Austin area and how many just might want to have their license as a hobby, but partnering with Compass has helped me to be able to provide even better service with the tools at our fingertips. Being able, for example, we have a search tool where I can see, what my buyers are looking at and provide them more data if they need. And we can have a conversation about a property within the tool rather than having to go back and forth on text messages and scroll up and down to see where we might have said the address that they want to go see. It's all on a dashboard. So it's more efficient and easier to do. So, and being the business that I run is with myself, and I've worked with other brokerages and my clients come with me. So they're more concerned about how I'm dealing with them versus how the company is, but they like the protection of the company too. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Um, do you feel like you get a lot of freedom when you work for a company? I mean, as an independent contractor and as a business owner, but yet working under the umbrella of another firm,
Mm-hmm.
do they control anything that you do, or do you feel like you've got full freedom to sell as you see fit?
Yeah, that's a great question. Every firm is different. And I feel more freedom at the current firm than where I previously was, simply because they have more robust systems and we have branding, but can create our own. So that's something that I love, is that I can create my own brand and be able to pull, just any type of social media that I want, any type of uh, videographer that I want. It's all really on my discernment and my own dime. So being able to put that through, in terms of approvals, it's just making sure that we're not violating the rules of the Texas Association of Realtors or our licensing, which I would need to do regardless of if I was with a big corporation or if I was on my own independently.
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes perfect sense. And like you said before, it gives you the support that you need behind you and some protection, but then also gives you a lot of freedom as a business owner to run your business as you see that works best for you. So that is kind of the best of all worlds, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Yes. Some people rely on purchasing leads from different systems, and they can do that under the Compass umbrella. And I rely on referrals, and I can do that. And there's no must do ways of business, and except for doing it right, which hence the name of the right team that I run with my business partner.
That's great. I love it.
Yeah.
So a lot of people go into the house hunting process thinking that the loan amount that they've pre-qualified for, that they qualify for, plus the down payment that they make dictates the home price that they'll actually buy. And of course, we know that that's not necessarily the best approach to go about buying a house. How do you feel about talking with your clients about the budgeting and how they're going to pay for their house and understanding what the source of the down payment money is and how that looks for them down the road in terms of like the marital property laws and things like that?
Yeah, I have been more and more comfortable with this as my career has progressed. And I've gotten to know different opportunities available, which I think is part of any career as you mature in it. However, the way I was initially taught how to do a buyer's consultation is to find out about the financing piece, because that's most important. You know what you can qualify for and what you can afford, so that I'm not taking you to houses that might shoot the bar way too high or be way too low, and we're all on the same page. So really helps with the communication to know from the get-go. Some of my clients might be approved for $1 million, but only want to spend 500,000. So that's where we stay in line. And I'm not trying to force them into something that would be for my own benefit versus helping them to understand what they can pay. And part of the teaching in that is to get connected with a lender if they need one, that can also help educate them on the loan piece. So I stay in my own lane on that because I'm not a lender. However, I know good lenders that can help qualify them and understand the down payment assistance programs that might be available for them, because it is more of a portfolio based approach. So what does their debt to income ratio look like? And all of that detail is what the lender will do, but we work together once that's handled so that we're all on the same page and make sure that we can present them in the best light whenever they're ready to buy a home.
Yeah, and you really just brought up a great point that staying in your lane is really valuable and important. You don't want to step outside your area of expertise, and that the lenders definitely have a lot of value to add to that conversation as well. I think the challenge that I see, especially in my work with divorcing clients and as the accounting side on the financials, I see people with eyes bigger than their stomachs in the way that like they want more house than they really can afford. And they may still qualify for the loan that they want in order to be able to get that house. But what they don't think about is all of the extra costs that are alongside that. So they might have realized with the lender what the mortgage payment's going to look like, and maybe even what the taxes and insurance might look like as well. So they know what on a monthly basis they'll have to pay to the mortgage company if they're escrowing, and if not, then to the insurance and taxes themselves. But what they don't have a good feel for is what the total cost of their living expense actually is, with all of the utilities and maintenance and repairs and all of the things that go along with home ownership that isn't part of the qualification mortgage process. I understand that the whole like qualification process has some of that built in already, that lenders won't give out more money to people than what they anticipate those additional costs to include as well, to make sure that they can afford it. But I still see happening, and it fluctuates depending on the state of the economy, but I still see people qualifying for a lot more loan amount and monthly payment amount than they really can afford with the life that they want to live. So I love knowing that you do some education, and I hope that we can broach the subject more openly with clients and other agents to help them realize that this conversation is really important to have, to help your clients get set on the right foot once they buy their property and are starting to make payments on it and live there. And so y'all are great resources for helping them understand some of those other things like repairs and maintenance based on the age of the home, other things that have been repaired recently, your experience with other clients, statistics, whatever information you have that can be really valuable to just help clients really be realistic about what it's going to look like for them so they can really make an informed decision rather than just seeing this beautiful house is what they want. And that's, they qualified for the loan. So that's the end of the conversation.
Yeah, and that's a good point that they're qualifying for more than they actually want to spend. Part of where we're at right now in our market is the interest rates are higher and there's a lot of pent up demand. And so, with the economy being uncertain, some people are wondering, is this going to be another 2008 where a lot of people are going to foreclose on their house? And the answer is probably no. There's more equity that homeowners have at this time than they did before because they're buying smarter and the lenders have a tighter regulation than they did before. And I would encourage, there's a lot more education about finances today than there was even 5 years ago to budget your home, and how to budget what the upcoming year might look like for you, even though there are programs where you can buy down your interest rate. That's something that we discuss in length simply because you want to make sure that when the interest rate is at its actual number 3 years down the road, that it's something you're still going to want to have in your cash flow, as well as the fluctuation of insurance and the fluctuation of property taxes, because that then can change your escrow estimate and increase your monthly payment. So it is really important to have those conversations going into purchasing, that you're not purchasing at your highest budget amount, but maybe a little bit more comfortable within a few $100s so that you're not surprised if the escrow account goes up. And part of what we do along those lines is help with the property tax protest so that you can make sure that your value is at market, if not under, depending on how the counties assess it, which is all an estimate, and they have their own algorithms. And that's really a conversation for another day, but that's part of how we help our clients though. So, when we're at the closing table, we don't leave after that. We're not just wash our hands and thank you for buying from us. It's a lifelong journey so that we can help you along the way and put you in contact with people to help you understand how to manage your home once you own it. Because it can be a challenge not knowing what happens whenever it's 3 a.m. and your sink starts leaking, or something like that, but if you do get a surprise piece of mail too, what are your next steps and how can you work within that? So understanding the financial piece is very important, which is why we talk about it up front.
So, do you have any advice for agents about how they can approach this delicate conversation in a way that won't chase off potential clients?
Yeah, I've not had it be something that is objectionable to clients, because as the realtor, we have a fiduciary duty. So part of what I always I recommend is just explaining your fiduciary duty to the clients, and that this is a private conversation and will be held in confidence. It's not something that is public knowledge. I won't talk about it with friends, even if the friends refer them. That everything that we talk about is confidential, and that I'm here to help and not judge. So I work with all different levels of budgeting too. And, I had a client tell me she was grateful that I still work with the small budget people, and her budget wasn't actually small to me. And I just said, we help everyone, and so it's just interesting because everyone has their own perspective of what money is and what money means, right? Which is why I love your podcast. But it's not, I just take the meaning out of it for what people might think and come from a place of neutrality, which is really important. And then having the tools to be able to assist them Not just sending links, but actually sending personal introductions is always helpful as well.
Yeah, that's a great, gosh, you made a lot of great points there. So yeah, I think I'll just let the audience let that digest because I think that was really a lot of helpful information in that
Thanks.
statement. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
So how do you know when your client has found the right home, like when they're house hunting? Do you have some kind of like intuition, or do you ever know that they've found the right, or that you've found the right home before they even walk in?
It's interesting for every purchase is different. And when we're having the conversation about our process and what that looks like by starting with our net cast out wide and then narrowing down the options, there comes a point where the buyers have to have this feeling that we can't actually explain. I've had the feeling because I've walked into different houses in my life, but it's not something I can actually educate on, right? Most
What do you
recently,
call it?
yeah, there were some clients that I helped buy a house that were from out of town. So I did get to go into the house before they did. And it felt like this could be the one simply because of the location. It had a lot of the boxes checked. However, it was a bit more outdated. So I wasn't quite sure how they felt, but it seemed to feel right to me. And it took about 3 other trips to the house for them to agree, because there were so many options. And that's something that is a factor right now. I might think there's a house that's the right house for some folks, and there's other options, so they don't want to miss out on anything. And ultimately, it's their decision. I'm just there to foster the path. But there have been times where I thought the home was not right, and it actually turned out to be right. So my intuition is helpful in some cases, but not all, because it's really up to how it makes the buyer feel and if it's in line with where they're at. But a lot of times we are on the same page about, yeah, I thought this would be the one for you.
Yeah, it's so interesting, especially because, you talked at the beginning of the session about how you feel called to serve, to help other people. That I feel like, and I have the same calling. I think that's one of many reasons why we get along so well. And I think that comes from some kind of empathic ability that we have. It's like, intuition is a great word to describe it too, but I think it's bigger than that. It's more of a connection between the two people, or the three people, whoever it is that's your clients and you, to be able to like energetically feel into what they're wanting out of that next property. And so it's interesting because I think the world is moving in the direction of expanding our abilities and knowledge and help and service to others so that we can really become more efficient at helping people narrow down the number of homes that they need to go visit, or whatever it is that they're about to do, so that you can really help them hone in on the right energy of the property. So, um, of course, I adore you for lots of reasons, but one of them is that you do see the world from a unique lens like I do, and that there's so much more to this life beyond what we gather with our senses, and that we're here for a very important purpose. And I love that you're always open to some of my crazy ideas that I bring to you, such as using things like numerology to develop deeper relationships with clients and to help them find a home that matches the life experience that they're wanting from that next chapter. And of course, I'm having a great time with you creating this, and I'm really grateful to you for riding this wave with me. So, can you share a little bit with the audience about what it's been like for you to explore this concept with me?
Yeah. So along the way, I've explored several different leadership trainings and tools and spiritualities and modalities, partially because I love connecting with people, and it's not necessarily a matter of what can I do to make you like me? It's more so a matter of how can I be in your listening better so that I can serve and help you. And what I love about numerology is that there's an outline, and I am a numbers person and have always loved math. So it just is something that is fun to play with and match up with people sometimes. If I'm not really sure if I'm getting it, running numbers in the background can be helpful. And also to see, for my own house, where the numbers have been with addresses and what the purpose of the homes are. It's a fun way to look at it from a spiritual lens, and see, what that purpose could look like, and what has been the outcome of the lives of people that live in their houses, but also in communication to ensure that we're on the same page. That's kind of an underlying theme with me, is that I want to make sure that I'm meeting and exceeding expectations. And sometimes you just never know. Some people are a little bit more reserved, and I am not. So it's especially helpful in those situations to be able to take a step back and really ask the right questions that will be received. And so it's almost a matter of respecting the other people from a different zone, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's great. I love what you just said about all of that. Do you mind sharing a little bit about the specifics of the like numerology and your experience,
Mhm.
maybe with your own homes and what that energy felt like, to just kind of give it some life?
Yeah. So currently I live in a house that is, the address number is 702. And the number 9 is about endings. And add more if I don't have it all down yet. But part of the buying philosophy I've been working with, and my husband and I have agreed on, is buying stepping stone houses. And with that, a stepping stone house is something that you buy, live in, and then lease out down the road and keep it as an investment property. And we have decided already that, okay, our next house is going to be one that we'll stay in for a while. We want it to have things that we love, and we don't want to necessarily give up in the process. And then when we started working the numbers and I found out about the 9 aspect and what that looked like, I didn't know that coming into this at all. And when we discussed it, I thought, oh, well, that makes total sense. This is our last stepping stone house. We're going to move on to something different. And then, with my rental property, the very first stepping stone house that I have, the address is 614, which is an 11. And there's been a lot of healing in that house, and connection. I had a roommate there. I had some family stay with me for a while. And that's where my husband moved in with me. So we got to start our life together there, and then moved into where we are now. And then the tenants have had, like transitions going on in their life. And that's why they've chosen the house. Like, that's been the purpose. So it's cool to provide a space and know that there's an underlying comfort there. Some people may see houses as just the brick and mortar and the wood that holds them up. And I find that there is, it's a living organism, with all of the factors that make a house up. The wood was a tree, and the concrete, is a mixture altogether. So of rocks, and so our earth is a part of our structure. And so I feel like it has its own space for you to be able to be comfortable and to love how you live. And you get to create that. And so I love fostering that path to creation, and where people have that, oh, this is the house for me when they walk in. That's that non-explainable feeling that happens. So those are
Yes.
those are my own personal experiences.
Those are great. Those are really great examples, especially the 11, because yes, 11 is a very old soul, like intuitive kind of number. And it looks like a doorway, right? The two ones right next to each other look kind of like a doorway. But when you add the ones together, you get a two, which the number two also is all about partnership. And it sounds like you experienced a lot of different kinds of partnership in that property, which is awesome and like so supportive and also like divinely feminine, so great for receiving and for you to be able to receive income from this property is equally beneficial, right? So there's the partnership between the renter and you, and then there's the partnership between the renters, the multiple, and the family if there's a couple living there. And so yeah, there's it's so interesting to see when we look back at the places we've lived before we understood anything about numerology and connecting the dots. That's why you and I have been working for a little while on creating a course for realtors about using numerology to understand clients on a deeper level. And then I think the level 2 training will be about using numerology to match the energy and the consciousness of the house, like you just very eloquently described, with it being made of materials from the earth. There is consciousness in that, and matching that consciousness with that of the buyers turns a very money oriented business, like very financially sound business process, into something incredibly spiritual. And so what a beautiful gift we are creating for the world by sharing this information. So thank you so much for doing this with me. I could not have done it by myself. So I'm really thankful to have you on this journey of real estate numerology in particular.
I'm thankful to be a part of it. And, it's funny because before you and I started working on this, I had a client tell me, by the way, my address needs to have a 5 in it. And she had studied numerology. And I said, okay, and just had no clue why. And now that I have this resource, it's something that I've gone back to her actually and said, now I understand why. And so it helped us a little bit more on her search this time, actually. So it's been a great journey to be on with you and to learn and appreciate being a student of numerology.
Thank you. And actually, that story just really made me think of my own experience that I'm going through right now as we're recording this podcast. I'm in process of building my next house, and in choosing the property and the lot, went with my agent to the builder and freaked her out a little bit by saying I need the addresses for all of the lots that we're considering so that I can choose one based on a numerological digit number that feels good to me. And so she was a little dumbfounded by the whole thing because she and I hadn't had the conversation before. But the builder brought out the sheet that had the picture with all the different lots on it and the addresses, and we calculated them for the 4 different lots that I was considering. And 3 out of the 4 lots had the numerology of the number 4, which is all about stability and hard work stability is really the big word that comes to mind when I think of the number 4, but also like effort, a lot of effort. And I didn't want that because I want this next phase of my life to be easy and to be like comfortable and luxurious, I'm an empty nester shortly, and I want things to finally be easy, not to be parenting all the time. I know I'm still a parent forever, but you get it. And so I chose the lot that had the numerology of a 6, which was actually the least expensive out of all of the lots that I was looking at. But it felt right because it backs up to this beautiful ranch and it felt very serene. And it's like 10 steps away from the trailhead in the community to be able to walk or ride my bike. And all the things that I was really wanting in my next home to have access to were right there. And so the number 6 is all about family and balance and harmony. And so it just felt right. So that's the lot that I'm building on. And I just know I'm going to experience that when I move in. And how nice was it to have an easy way to narrow down my choices to the right lot? Right. So
Yeah. It does help narrow things down and also put you in the mindset of this is what I'm looking forward to with this next
yeah,
property, and
yeah,
that's not something that everyone thinks about, but I know a lot of people do. And being in Austin, we have a lot of eclectic natures and
yeah.
beliefs and mindsets and anything, in my opinion, anything that brings us to a place where we're looking towards is always a positive thing to do. So why not?
Yes. And you also bring up another great point too, that about the eclectic points of view and backgrounds. And one of the things I love about numerology is that it is not inconsistent with any religion. Like their numerology is described in great detail in the Bible. I mean, it is part of the Kabbalah, which is Jewish mysticism, and is described in great detail in the Christians refer to as the Old Testament, right? So it is very much a very reasonable part of religious systems as well. I just have experienced a lot of resistance from people who consider themselves to be religious because they're concerned that that's like outside the bounds of what my religion says I can believe in. But the
Hmm.
truth is that it actually isn't for most, at least not in the U.S., the Judeo-Christian backgrounded folks. So, and those who come from other religions oftentimes are not so boxed in. So it really works for almost anyone, and it is numbers, it's math, which is fun for both of us, and it's easy and simple to calculate compared to some of the more difficult modalities like astrology and human design, and even gene keys, which is based in numerology. Still, those other ones are a lot more complex. This is something we can do like in our minds pretty quickly with just an address. So it's really fun. And again, I'm really thankful to you, Claire, for joining me on this journey. So, my last question, 2 questions that I ask all of my guests. What does the title of the podcast, Money to Meaning, actually mean to you? And how do you interpret that title?
Yeah. So for me, I grew up with a different mindset about money, coming from a smaller town, an entrepreneur family that we had a wonderful middle class childhood. And part of the reason I moved to Austin was to have more opportunity. I didn't know what that looked like. And what it's given me is a different way to see how to live and not be defined by money. And I think a lot of people, and that was my own meaning that I gave it, was that it defined me. And it wasn't something that my parents taught me or anything. It's just what I tried on and it stuck when I was a young adult. And so after I came here and started seeing different ways that it was used, and changed the mindset to where money is more of a tool than it is about who I am or where I come from or what I'm about. It takes that meaning out of it. So the title of your podcast, Money to Meaning, gives me an alignment of how I see it, which is as a tool and being open-minded to how everyone thinks about money. Because as a realtor, being open-minded to people's beliefs about money, people's spiritual beliefs, people's careers, if they want status, if they don't want status, all of that just boils into what am I willing to help them with, right? So with your podcast being called Money to Meaning, I see it as a pathway for people to really just discover what it means to them. And it doesn't have to stick and it doesn't have to stay. It can always be in flow and in transition.
I love that. It's great. Perfect. Perfect explanation, definition there. It's great. So, how can people find you if they're in the Austin area and looking to buy or sell a house?
Well, that's a great question. I am on two different websites and LinkedIn. My website is called therightteamatx.com, and that will bring you to my bio page on the Compass website. You can find me as Clare Connally Webb and visit me there. But you can reach out to me by email or phone. Not sure if I list those here if you want to put them in the comments, but I'm happy to provide that.
Awesome. Thank you again, Claire. This was such a great conversation. I'm really grateful to you for your time and energy into this. It will be really helpful for a lot of people.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here and just discover what comes next for people.